I'm Miriam, and I've always been the responsible one. Growing up as the oldest of 4 kids in our Mexican family wasn't easy, but I learned to take care of everyone early on. My parents worked hard, and I helped raise my brother and 2 sisters. Now at 39, I have my own family, my husband Carlos and our daughter Milena, who's 17 and about to graduate high school. The whole mess started on a Tuesday morning when I got the mail. There it was, this fancy cream-colored envelope with my middle sister Rosa's name printed in gold. I opened it, expecting the usual wedding invitation stuff, but then I saw it. Right there in black ink, adults only event, 18 years and older. I read that line 3 times, maybe 4. I kept thinking I was missing something or reading it wrong. This was Rosa's wedding, my own sister's wedding, and she was basically saying my daughter couldn't come. I hadn't even put the invitation down when I heard Milena's footsteps running down the stairs. Mom, she said, bouncing into the kitchen with that excited energy she gets. We need to go shopping today for the wedding outfits. I was thinking maybe something blue? Or that burgundy color you always say looks good on me? My heart just sank. I looked at her face, so happy and excited, and I knew I was about to crush her. Milena, honey, sit down for a second. What's wrong? She could tell something was off by my voice. I handed her the invitation. Look at this part here. She read it, and I watched her face change. The excitement just drained right out of her eyes. Adults only? But I'm almost 18, I turn 18 in 4 months. I know, baby. This is stupid, her voice got louder. When I was 12, I went to Uncle David's wedding and nobody cared. I was good the whole time. I didn't cause any problems or anything. She was right about that. David's wedding 5 years ago, she was perfect. Sat quietly during the ceremony, danced with her cousins, helped clear plates. Everyone said how well behaved she was. Mom, this isn't fair. Milena's eyes were getting watery. 4 months, I'm 4 months away from being 18. I graduate next month. I'm not a little kid anymore. Before I could answer, she ran upstairs to her room and slammed the door. I sat there holding that stupid invitation, feeling angry and hurt and confused all at the same time. You see, Milena got vitiligo when she turned 14. Started as this tiny white spot on her left cheek, maybe the size of a dime. The doctor said it was an autoimmune thing, nothing dangerous, just her skin losing pigment in patches. But then it spread. More spots on her face, her neck, her arms, her hands. Since we're Mexican and have dark skin, the white patches really stand out. At first, my parents and Carlos's parents were supportive. They said it didn't matter, that she was still their beautiful granddaughter. But as the spots got bigger and more noticeable, things changed. My mom started suggesting makeup to even out her skin tone. My dad would look uncomfortable when Milena wore short sleeves. And gradually, the invitations to family gatherings got more specific about who was invited. I remember the exact moment I realized what was happening. Last Christmas, my mom called and said they were having their usual Christmas Eve dinner, but maybe it would be better if Milena stayed home this year because some of the older relatives might not understand her condition. That's when it clicked. They were embarrassed by their own granddaughter. Carlos and I always told Milena to be proud of who she is. We never wanted her to hide or feel ashamed. She's smart, funny, kind, and graduating as valedictorian next month. The vitiligo doesn't define her, but apparently it defines how some of our family sees her. That evening, after Milena had calmed down and was doing homework, I showed Carlos the invitation. 18 and older only, he read out loud. That's weird, since when do weddings have age limits like that? Since they don't want our daughter there. Miriam, come on, you don't know that for sure. Carlos, think about it. When was the last time anyone from my family invited Milena to anything? When was the last time my parents asked how she was doing in school or came to one of her debate tournaments? He was quiet for a moment. Maybe there's another explanation. I wanted to believe him, but deep down I knew better. This was about Milena's vitiligo, and I was going to find out for sure. I'm going to talk to Rosa tomorrow. The next morning, I drove straight to Rosa's house. I didn't call first because I wanted to catch her off guard, to see her real reaction when I asked about Milena. Rosa lives in this nice suburban neighborhood about 20 minutes from us, in one of those cookie-cutter houses with the perfect lawn and matching shutters. She answered the door in her robe, holding a cup of coffee. "Miriam? What are you doing here so early? We need to talk about your wedding invitation." Her face changed immediately. She knew exactly why I was there. "Come in, I guess." We sat in her living room, and I didn't waste any time. "Why didn't you invite Milena to your wedding?" "It says right on the invitation, adults only, she's not 18 yet." "Rosa, she'll be 18 in 4 months. She's graduating next month, she's not a child. The invitation says 18 and older. Those are the rules. Miguel's family is very traditional. They don't want children at the wedding." "Children?" "Rosa, Milena is 17 years old. When she was 12, she came to David's wedding and nobody had a problem with it. What's different now?" "That was different. David's wedding was more casual." "More casual?" "It was at the same church, with the same family, the same traditions. The only thing that's different is that Milena has vitiligo now." Rosa's face went red. "This has nothing to do with that." "Really?" "Because the timing seems pretty convenient. She gets vitiligo at 14, and suddenly she's not welcome at family events anymore." "That's not true. When was the last time Mom and Dad invited her over for dinner? When was the last time anyone from this family acted like she existed?" "You're being dramatic, Miriam." "Am I? Tell me one family event in the past 3 years where Milena was specifically invited, just one." She couldn't answer because there wasn't one. We both knew it. "Look," Rosa said, "Miguel's family is very particular about how things should be. They're serious people, very concerned about appearances and doing things the right way. They insisted on the adults-only thing, and I can't change their minds." "So you're telling me that your future in-laws are so controlling that they get to decide which members of our family can attend your wedding?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're choosing them over your own niece." "I'm not choosing anyone over anyone. I'm just trying to keep the peace. By excluding a 17-year-old girl who's never done anything wrong except get an autoimmune disease?" Rosa stood up and walked to the window. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Miguel's mother already thinks our family is too loud, too informal. She's looking for reasons to criticize us. I can't give her any ammunition. You're making it complicated because you're embarrassed by your own niece." "I am not embarrassed by Milena." "Then prove it, change the invitation, make an exception for family." "I can't do that." "You mean you won't do that?" We stared at each other for a long moment. I could see in her eyes that I was right, that this was about Milena's appearance, about not wanting her in the wedding photos or around the fancy new in-laws. But Rosa wasn't going to admit it. "I think you should leave," she said quietly. "Yeah, I think I should too." I got up and walked to the door. Before I left, I turned back to her. "You know what the sad part is? Milena was so excited about your wedding. She wanted to go shopping for a dress, wanted to help with decorations, wanted to be part of your special day. And you're throwing that away because you're worried about what some people you barely know might think. Miriam, please don't make this harder than it has to be." "I'm not making it hard, you are." I left her house feeling angrier than when I arrived. At least now I knew for sure what this was really about. A few days later, I got a text from Rosa. "Please confirm that you and Carlos will be attending the wedding. Need final headcount for catering." I stared at that text for about 10 minutes, then deleted it without responding. Then the call started. "First Mom, Rosa says you're upset about something. What's going on?" I didn't answer. Then Dad, "Rosa is stressed about the wedding. Can't you just work this out?" I didn't answer. David called next. "Mom says you're not coming to Rosa's wedding." "That's crazy, you have to come, she's your sister." I didn't answer any of them. The texts kept coming. You're being unreasonable. Don't ruin Rosa's wedding over this. Think about the family, Milena will understand. But nobody, not one single person, said you're right or this is wrong or Milena should be invited too. They all just wanted me to shut up and go along with it. A whole month went by like this. Rosa's wedding was getting closer, and I still hadn't responded to anyone. Carlos kept asking if I was sure about this, if I really wanted to miss my sister's wedding, but I was sure. If they didn't want my daughter there, then they didn't want me there either. Then came my Aunt Elena's birthday party. Elena is my mom's sister, and she's always been the one person in our family who says what everyone else is thinking but is too scared to say. She's tough, speaks her mind, and doesn't care if people like it or not. She's also always been good to Milena, asking about school and remembering her birthday and treating her like she matters. I knew my whole family would be at Elena's party, and I knew there was going to be drama. But Elena had specifically asked Carlos and me to come, and I couldn't say no to her. She's been like a second mother to me my whole life. Elena's birthday party was at her house, and when Carlos and I walked in, I could feel the tension immediately. My whole family was there, Mom, Dad, David, Rosa, Carmen. They all looked at me like I was some kind of traitor who had shown up to ruin everything. I kept my distance, staying on the other side of the room, talking to Elena's neighbors and friends. But I could feel my family watching me, whispering to each other, probably trying to figure out who was going to approach me first. Elena noticed right away that something was wrong. "Miriam, you look tense." "Everything okay?" she asked, pulling me aside in the kitchen. "I'm fine, just happy to be here for your birthday." "Don't give me that, I know that look, what's going on?" Before I could answer, Elena looked around the room. "Where's Milena? I haven't seen that beautiful girl in forever. Have you and Milena picked out your dresses yet?" That's when it hit me, Elena didn't know. Nobody had told her that Milena wasn't invited. "We're not buying dresses. Rosa didn't invite Milena to the wedding." Elena's face changed completely. The smile disappeared, and her eyes got hard. "What did you just say?" "The invitation said adults only, 18 and older. Milena's only 17. That's ridiculous, she's practically 18. She's graduating next month. What kind of nonsense is this?" Elena was getting loud, and people were starting to look over at us. I saw Rosa notice and start walking our way with a worried expression. Rosa reached us just as Elena was getting really worked up. "Elena, is everything okay?" Rosa asked. "No, everything is not okay. Why didn't you invite Milena to your wedding?" Rosa looked panicked. "It's not personal. Miguel's family wanted an adults-only wedding." "Adults only?" "She's 17 years old, not 7. She's graduating as valedictorian next month. It's just how they wanted it." Elena looked back and forth between Rosa and me, and I could see her putting the pieces together. She's known Milena since she was born, watched her grow up, seen how the family's attitude changed after the vitiligo appeared. "Rosa, tell me the real reason you don't want Milena at your wedding." "I already told you the real reason." "No, you told me an excuse, I want the truth." By now, the whole party had gone quiet. Everyone was watching this confrontation, including my parents and David and Carmen. "Miguel's family has certain expectations," Rosa said defensively. "They're very traditional people. They care about appearances." Elena's voice got dangerous. "Are you telling me that your future in-laws think there's something wrong with Milena?" "That's not what I said." "Then what are you saying?" Rosa looked around the room, probably hoping someone would rescue her, but everyone was just staring. My mom started walking over, but Elena held up her hand to stop her. "David, come over here," Elena called to my brother. David walked over looking uncomfortable. "David, when you got married 5 years ago, how old was Milena?" "She was 12. "And was there a problem with her being at your wedding?" "No, of course not." "So what's different now?" David looked at Rosa, then at me, then back at Elena. "I don't know." "I think you do know. I think everyone in this room knows what's different now." The silence was thick, you could hear people breathing. Elena turned back to Rosa. I'm going to ask you one more time. What is the real reason you don't want Milena at your wedding? Rosa's face was bright red now. She kept looking around the room like someone was going to save her, but nobody was moving. Is it because of her vitiligo? I asked. No, Rosa said, but her voice cracked. Then what is it? Elena demanded. For a few seconds, Rosa just stood there. Then something in her just snapped. Fine, yes, it's because of the vitiligo. The room got even quieter. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, even though I already knew this was the truth. I don't want her in my wedding photos looking all blotchy, Rosa continued, her voice getting higher. I don't want Miguel's family to see her and think that our family has defective genes. I don't want them to worry that their future grandchildren might look like that. Several people gasped. But Rosa wasn't done. I've worked so hard to make a good impression on Miguel's family, and I can't have Milena there ruining everything. Miguel's mother already thinks we're too different from them. Rosa, my mother finally spoke up. I know it sounds mean, but it's my wedding day, and I want everything to be perfect. I don't want to look back at my wedding photos and see those white patches. I want beautiful pictures that I can show people without having to explain anything. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena looked like she wanted to slap Rosa. I felt sick to my stomach. Carlos reached over and took my hand. There, now you know the truth, Rosa said, breathing hard. You just called your own niece defective, Elena said quietly. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. My mother finally stepped forward. Maybe we can work something out. If Milena wore more makeup to cover the spots, and a long-sleeved dress, maybe we could make an exception. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was suggesting that my daughter should hide who she is just to be acceptable to these people. No, I said, standing up, absolutely not. Miriam, be reasonable, my mother said. Reasonable? You want my daughter to cover herself up like she's something shameful? The argument got louder and more heated. People were yelling over each other, taking sides, saying horrible things. Finally, Carlos grabbed my arm. We're leaving, he said firmly. As we walked toward the door, I turned back to look at my family. Rosa was crying, my parents looked angry, David looked confused, and Carmen was just standing there staring at the floor. Elena followed us to the door. You're doing the right thing, she whispered to me. Don't let them make you think otherwise. When we got home that night, I sat down at my computer and wrote Rosa an email. I told her that after what happened at Elena's party, Carlos and I would definitely not be attending her wedding. I sent it and then turned off my phone. Nobody from my family responded to the email. Not Rosa, not my parents, not David or Carmen, complete silence. A month later, Rosa's wedding took place without us. I didn't think about it much during the day, but that evening I found myself scrolling through social media. That's when I saw the photos. Rosa had posted dozens of pictures from her wedding, the ceremony, the reception, family photos, dancing pictures. She looked beautiful and happy, surrounded by all our relatives and her new husband's family. I stared at those photos for a long time, looking at my parents smiling in their formal clothes, at David and Carmen laughing at some table, at all the people who had decided that excluding my daughter was perfectly acceptable. Not one of them had reached out to us, not one had said they missed us or wished we had been there. Looking at those pictures, I realized that this wasn't just about one wedding anymore. This was about who we were as a family and what we were willing to accept. 6 months passed after Rosa's wedding, and I thought the worst was behind us. Milena had graduated as valedictorian, just like we knew she would. She was getting ready for college in the fall, excited about studying biology and maybe becoming a dermatologist to help other kids with skin conditions like hers. Carlos and I were proud of how strong she'd become through all of this. Then my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father and I are celebrating our 45th wedding anniversary next month. We want to have the party at your lake house. It has the perfect setting, big house, beautiful nature. Let us know. I stared at that message for a long time. After everything that had happened, after months of silence, they wanted to use my house for their anniversary party. The nerve of it was unbelievable. I didn't respond. A few days later, David texted me, "Mom says you haven't answered about the anniversary party. Are you okay? Why aren't you responding?" Then Carmen, "You need to call Mom and Dad back. They're worried about you." I ignored both messages. Then came a long email from Rosa. She wrote that I didn't need to destroy our family over such nonsense, that nothing terrible had happened, and that we definitely needed to reconcile because we used to be a close-knit family. She said I was being dramatic and that families sometimes have disagreements but they work through them. I showed the email to Carlos. He read it and shook his head. "Maybe you should give them a chance," he said carefully. "Maybe meet your parents and see what they have to say." "You think I should?" "I think if you don't, you might regret it later. At least hear them out." So I called my parents and suggested we meet at a neutral place, a coffee shop downtown. They agreed immediately, probably thinking they could convince me to let them use the lake house. We met on a Tuesday afternoon. My parents looked older than I remembered, more tired. They ordered their usual, coffee for Dad, tea for Mom. So about the anniversary party, Mom started before we even sat down properly. "We want to celebrate at your lake house," Dad added. "It's the perfect location." "We've already invited people," Mom continued, "including Miguel's family, Rosa's new in-laws. We want them to see what a nice, successful family we are." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "And Milena?" They looked at each other. Dad cleared his throat. "Well, that's the thing. We think it would be better if Milena wasn't there for this particular party." "Why?" "Because Miguel's parents will be there," Mom said. "And some of their other relatives. We don't want to make them uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable how?" "Miriam, you know how. With her condition and everything. These are new people, they don't understand, and we want to make a good impression." I gripped my coffee cup so hard I thought it might break. "You want to hide your own granddaughter from these people?" "We're not hiding her, we're just being considerate of everyone involved." "Considerate of everyone except Milena." "She'll understand," Dad said, "she's a smart girl." I looked at my parents, really looked at them. These people who raised me, who taught me about family loyalty and standing up for what's right. And here they were, asking me to exclude my daughter from their anniversary celebration because her appearance might embarrass them in front of virtual strangers. "No," I said, standing up. "Miriam, sit down, we can discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss, the answer is no. You can't use my house, and this conversation is over." I walked out of that coffee shop and drove home, shaking with anger. That evening, I sat down and wrote an email to my parents, David, Rosa, and Carmen. I told them that they had been ignoring and excluding Milena for years because of her vitiligo, that they treated their own relative like she was unworthy, and that I was done with all of it. I wrote that when they were ready to admit their mistakes and treat Milena with the respect she deserved, then I would be ready to listen to them. Until then, I was cutting off all contact. The responses came quickly. Mom texted back, "You are a terrible person. You have betrayed your own family. You should think carefully before throwing such words around." Rosa sent a long message saying I would regret what I had done, that Milena would soon go to college and eventually get married and have her own life, and I would end up alone without any relatives to support me. Carmen called me stupid and ungrateful and said I had disappointed the whole family. Only David responded differently. He sent a short text, "I don't want to break off relations with you. I was wrong not to support you and Milena. I would like to meet with you someday and discuss our relationship." I appreciated David's message, but I wasn't ready to deal with any of them yet. That was 2 years ago. Milena is now in her second year of college, studying pre-med with a focus on dermatology. She calls me almost every day, telling me about her classes, her friends, her boyfriend who thinks her vitiligo makes her look unique and beautiful. She's confident, happy, and proud of who she is. My family still talks badly about me, according to Milena, who keeps me updated on the family gossip. Apparently, they tell people that I'm the one who broke up the family, that I'm selfish and stubborn. Rosa got divorced after 8 months of marriage. Turns out Miguel's family wasn't as wonderful as she thought. Mom and Dad ended up having their anniversary party at a restaurant because no one else would host it. Sometimes Carlos asks if I miss them, if I ever think about reaching out. The truth is, I do miss the family I thought we were. But I don't miss the family we actually turned out to be. I don't regret my decision. I protected my daughter from people who saw her as damaged goods, who wanted her to hide who she was to make them more comfortable. I showed her that she's worth fighting for, that she doesn't have to accept being treated as less than. Milena doesn't talk about my family much anymore. When she does, it's usually to say how grateful she is that Carlos and I always stood by her. She knows what happened, knows why we don't see my relatives anymore, and she's okay with it.